Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Retention Chronicles. Super excited for our guest today. Oliver, so thankful for you to join us today. It's going to be great. We're going to kick off the episode with you saying hi to the audience and just with an intro.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. So I was born in Amsterdam. I'm a Dutch guy who is living in Amsterdam at the moment, but I grew up abroad. We moved around every 5 years. So I grew up in Japan, Italy, Spain, Hong Kong, Singapore, all over the place. And after that, after my childhood, I moved to the US for a Fulbright scholarship. Did 1 year in the US and actually met my co-founder there, but that will come later in the story. And then I returned to the Netherlands to start studying. And in my second year of my studies, I decided to start a business, and that business was called Ekster. So that's why we're here today.
Yeah, it's awesome. I can't wait to dive into all of that. But I want to ask, just because I think it's so interesting that you got to move around a lot as you were younger. So I'd be curious to hear how you think like that shaped just your worldview in general, or like your professional viewpoints. Because I am quite in the opposite category, where I grew up in a very small town in New Jersey, and only really started. I would travel when I was younger, but only started living in other places once I went to university. So curious to hear kind of how like moving around. You said every 5 years or so,
Yeah.
right? How
So
that affected you.
I remember very clearly whenever my parents knew that we were going to move to the next place, they would come to my room in the morning and tell me, sit on my bed and tell me, okay, we're leaving, so we're going to have to leave your friends behind, and we're going to a new
Mm,
place, new city, new school. And there was not a single time that I remember being sad about it, which was kind of crazy. Like I really genuinely loved moving from place to place. And I guess starting out from at a young age, that does shape the way you're open to change and also open to meeting new people and just to see the world. And in the end, for me, that's why I did start the business, at least for myself, is the freedom to be able to see the world and meet new people. But if you look at our team, I think we have over 13 nationalities in our team, so they're from all over the place. We only have one Dutch person that we hired while we're based in the Netherlands. So that's kind of crazy. So we're very internationally minded as a team, and I think my youth, or my, I guess the way I grew up, helped in that.
yeah, that's awesome. Wow. I think that's so interesting that now with remote work after the pandemic, it's like so normal to have teams all over the place. I feel like I didn't really get to see that be an option just with the environment that I grew up in. And now having the ability to have such a big team and have that be normal, that you have so many different nationalities represented on your team, is really cool.
Yeah, and the crazy part is that they're actually based. Most of them are based in Amsterdam, so they're from all over the place, but they're living in Amsterdam. We also have a big team in other cities, so I think we have teams now in about three different countries. But most of them are based here.
Wow, that's wonderful. Okay. Thank you for that personal background. I think that just helps shape for the listeners who are listening, like hopefully get an idea of who you are and how your background influences the person that you now are. So let's dive into professional background. Can you give us kind of a walkthrough of how you and your co-founder, Rick, created Ekster?
Yeah, so it was 6 years ago. I was living in Hong Kong at the time, doing an internship in finance, where I found out that I didn't ever want to work in finance again.
That's funny.
And then I was living there, and I realized that people were all paying with their phones, even paying on QR codes with their phones on the market, which didn't exist in Europe yet. And in the US, people didn't really hear about this either. I guess 7 years ago, that wasn't the thing. So I thought, okay, so why are people still carrying fat bifold wallets in Europe? Like, why is that still a thing? So I got together with Rick. We started brainstorming about other things that could have been improved about the wallet. We really wanted to bring it to the 21st century. And then, yeah, I guess that's when the idea for Ekster was born. We wanted to change the way you carry your everyday items, starting with the wallet. Not long after that, our third co-founder joined us, Richard. He was a few years older, had some more experience in business. That really helped set up the website and all that stuff. But yeah, so that really developed over the years. So I would say we started as, changing the way that you carry and creating the very first trackable wallet, which didn't exist back then. We knew that one of the main issues with wallets was you losing them. So we thought, okay, what if we launched that on Kickstarter? And that launch was a blazing success from the very beginning. So the first year we did 1 million in revenue. We sold thousands of wallets globally. And from there, we had enough capital to just keep growing the team. And now 6 years later, we have a team of 50 people. We're making better gear for life on the go. So not only wallets, anything you carry with you on a daily basis. And we're trying to do it in a better way too, sustainably.
Yeah. Okay. That's awesome. So I'm not super familiar with just the industry specifics as one would be when you're working in that industry. So was it kind of like the first prototype or first on the market? Like I feel like I only have started to hear about more accessories that are trackable. And I feel like just technology has come a long way, but I haven't really come across a ton of that before. And if this was 6 years ago, then I imagine you'd be kind of before the wave, correct?
Yeah, we were right before the wave. So I would say the year we launched is when Internet of Things like trackability really took off. And we were the first wallet with an integrated tracker, which was the right place at the right time. Obviously, there was definitely a demand for it. People were losing their stuff all the time. So AirTags didn't exist yet. And the fact that Apple jumped on that just says enough. So it was definitely a need at that time, which is why we broke through as a brand, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Like now I just think of everyone would just have an Apple tag, right? Like that's really, and that has been, like you said, just more recent, and Apple's kind of, I feel like, hopping on that bandwagon, whereas now like people are wanting that, especially just with, being able to find your devices. And if you're in that Apple ecosystem, being able to find your AirPods or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really cool to see kind of the being on the cusp of the new technology, and then see other players in the space start to adopt that. So let's talk a little bit more about what inspired you. I know you mentioned building out, you were just thinking about the process of why having a smaller, maybe more modern wallet hasn't been widely accepted or widely taken on in the US and Europe. So can you walk us through that story a little bit deeper, and just like in detailing kind of the process of starting your own company and building out a product?
Yeah, so like I said, I was living in Hong Kong. Rick was living in Rotterdam, and Richard was living in Singapore. So we were all over the place. We were not in the same place trying to think this through. We were literally calling, FaceTiming, trying to sketch this thing and put it together. I would go to the market in Hong Kong and I would buy different types of leather and different types of like metal to put together with screws to really build this mechanism. And Rick was in the Netherlands trying to find local prototyping companies to work with and partner up with. And Richard was behind the scenes setting up the website, helping us like set up the official incorporation in the Netherlands, because we had no idea how that worked. And so Rick, when I came back to Rotterdam, Rick and I started interviewing prototyping companies. And I remember we made a short list of about 12 prototyping firms in the Netherlands, because we wanted local, just to make sure that we had the control over the product at the beginning. And out of those 12 that we spoke, all of them, so only one company actually said yes to working with us. All the other ones rejected us because they saw that we were 22 years old, had no business experience, didn't really have any budget. So they were like, okay, this is never going to work. And so there was one company that decided that they wanted to take the leap, which was super cool, because we were kind of hopeless at the time. We're like, okay, we can't really make a sample with our bare hands. We don't have the technology for this. So we needed that sample for our Kickstarter campaign. So we started working with this firm, and I guess that was the step that kickstarted the whole thing. And then after that, finding the right audience all went through Kickstarter marketing, and we can dive into that later if you want.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be awesome. So everyone kind of took on their separate portion, then you'd come together. That's so interesting that, like, I guess
Yeah,
out of the 12 prototyping places that you spoke with, only one was willing to accept that risk. And I have to imagine that just from, my like what I've seen other entrepreneurs talk through is sometimes it's just like you find the right match where someone is willing to take the gamble and then things just launch from there. Um,
yeah,
so that's
no,
so
definitely.
exciting. Do you still work with that same prototyping
They,
company?
they were like our first step to becoming a business. So we don't work with them anymore, but they did help us kickstart everything and have our first sample, which is all we needed to start our Kickstarter campaign. So in a way, they really helped us get there, right?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I would love to dive into that Kickstarter marketing and take a little bit of a detour from um, the questions that I intended to ask you, because I think that would be really interesting to talk through that. And we haven't had a guest do that previously on the podcast. So if you could walk us through now, like after, you have your Kickstarter campaign, what that process looked like, that'd be great.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess there's a few pillars to really watch out for. I've by now I've written a whole guidebook of how to do a good Kickstarter campaign because people
Mm.
started reaching out to us, and I was kind of sick of winging it. So I wrote out this whole like step-by-step process of how to build your successful Kickstarter campaign. Even started coaching people on it. I haven't done one in a few years, but from what I remember, the most important part, what helped us succeed, was benchmarking the best campaigns out there.
Mm.
All the best campaigns, if you look at like the ones that have raised millions of dollars, they all have like this certain recipe in the way their campaign is built up and in the way that their rewards, which are the products you order on the campaign, in the way they're structured and priced, and the way they work with the urgency of each reward. So when you start a Kickstarter campaign, you have to submit your campaign. You have to have a super cool video that's going to grab the attention of the viewer. And after that, you need to make sure that the campaign explains everything in a very short format. But obviously, you want to hit your goal as soon as possible. So I would say the main goal to get your Kickstarter campaign to succeed is to have a target that you can hit within 24 hours,
Mm.
and to make sure that the amount of pledges is as high as possible in the early days of your campaign. This causes your campaign to come on the popular page of Kickstarter, which is where all the traffic goes. And
Mm.
in the end, that's the reason you're on Kickstarter, is because you're trying to get those people that are already on their website. If you're just going to be doing performance marketing straight to your campaign, then you could be doing that to your website and you wouldn't have to pay the fee to Kickstarter. So in short, the main goal is to get onto that popular page as quickly as possible. There's many tricks and many ways to try to work the algorithm in your favor. But that's the main purpose. And then after that, there's obviously a lot of marketing tactics like performance marketing, referral campaigns, cross promotions with other campaigns that you can do to push your campaign to success.
Oh, that's really interesting. So is it kind of like users or pledge, like you pledge to the campaign? I know nothing about Kickstarter, right? So
Okay, so
this
it's
is
pretty
going to be
much like,
fun.
yeah, they buy your product before you have produced it because you don't have the budget to produce it yet.
Hmm.
So you try to get as many people to buy your product. You use that money to go to your factory and produce it, and then you deliver it about 6, 7 months later. So it's almost like they're investing in your company, but they're not getting any stock. They're just getting a product in return.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like a
Yeah,
pre-sale almost.
yeah, yeah. It's
Okay.
like a pre-order.
Okay. Yeah, pre-order. Okay, that's awesome. So getting on the popular page, I assume like the algorithm is probably similar to social media, and that it's just like engagement and pledges. And
Yeah,
once you understand that, then you can, you know, make sure your campaign aligns, like the strategy aligns with those goals. Um, so would you say then how was the transition from going from a Kickstarter campaign to then using like the website that Richard built out and kind of going to like the e-commerce D2C side of things?
so we actually spent our entire first year crowdfunding because we went into the Indiegogo in demand program, which is like evergreen Kickstarter campaign where you can just keep funding through a crowdfunding website. It's kind of a cool way to continue your Kickstarter campaign if you don't have the means to build a web shop. In the background, we were building our Shopify web shop, basic theme designed just by ourselves. And I would say that process was relatively smooth because we had Richard, and Richard is a coder. Like, he's been building websites his whole life. So because of his experience in coding and like my design, I guess, of the website, we were able to get it very quickly. And I don't remember many roadblocks when it comes to the web shop. The roadblocks came later when we started scaling hard and, wanting to optimize the website for conversion.
Yeah. Okay. I definitely want to put a pin in that and come back to it about just like roadblocks and problem solving on that side of things. But before we do so, I want to talk more about building out your Shopify store and kind of the experience that you all anticipate or hope that a customer has with your branding and with your company. So now we've kind of talked about the background and Kickstarter campaign. What is that message that you all were hoping, someone lands on your site or someone interacts with your brand? What message are you hoping to convey?
So everything we do at Ekster revolves around getting the most out of every single day. So we make better gear for life on the go. You can see it in our content. We pretty much aim to save you time with our products so you can focus on living life. And if you look at our feed, if you look at our website, it's quite adventurous. It's out there. It's like not afraid to be off the grid. And I would say that the main thing, if you look at, for example, the features of our product, one example would be we created the card trigger for the wallet. So you could more efficiently grab your cards and literally save you time every single day. And all the times you use your card, you're not going to be your wallet, you're not going to be fumbling. And we've thought of smart features for all of our products to save you time. So in the end, trying to have our customer get more out of every single day.
Yeah. I think that's a great mission that everyone relates to, of like, if you lose your wallet or if you're struggling just to get whatever you need out of your wallet, it does add those like precious moments to your day. And even if you're in a rush, right, which is probably
exactly
the reality of a lot of people's
hassle,
situations.
the hassle of losing a wallet is one of the worst things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having to like block all your cards, get all that stuff back, like it's just such a pain.
Yeah. And even just the process of trying to, if you're not sure that you've lost it, like maybe it's lost in the car or in the house or like in a purse or something, you're trying to decipher, like, okay, do I just call it quits and say it's lost and then go through the whole process of your cards and everything? Or do you continue funneling more time into the process of looking for your wallet and then, might not even find it anyways, or maybe you do, and then still time devoted to trying to find it. So yeah, I think that message resonates even just from a consumer point of view with me, of anything that can save time and funnel that time back into something else that you'd rather be doing is a great mission to have. And I imagine that it has resonated well with customers, and that's why, you have seen that growth that has its own challenges in itself.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
So yeah, I want to now talk about, you mentioned just in the intro of Ekster, the sustainability piece and the materials that you're using to ensure that you all are doing your part as a company to have more sustainable materials and actions. So can you dive into that a little bit deeper?
Yeah, so sustainability for us starts at the very beginning of the supply chain. So it starts with the product. And every time that we design a product, we start with the materials and we look at how can we source the most sustainable material possible to build this, and then we build it from there. So you can see that in the leathers we use. You can see it in the partners, the factories that we partner up with. From the very beginning, the very first product we ever made, we actually decided to go for the more expensive option because of their track record and because of their sustainability certificates and all the other big brands they were working with. There were many cheaper options out there, but we went for that one because we trusted them. And that has translated into all of our products. If you look at our business as a whole, we are now in the final steps of becoming a B Corp, which has taken a lot of time and effort, but it's crucial to the happiness of your people and you know the well-being of the planet. And on top of that, I would say like looking at offsetting carbon emissions and just the way of sourcing all these materials is it's crucial to have sustainability in the back of your head for that.
Yeah, we've had a couple of, I completely agree. I think it's one of those things that customer experience it and customer, just like customer loyalty in general and customer retention, it adds to the experiences. I'm sure many of our listeners and many of our past guests have agreed in that if you're able to commit to a mission and you're able to say, we are going the extra mile, we are thinking through all of these different critical pieces in the way that your product is developed and shipped to you, and the way that we're interacting not only with our customers but also our surroundings and the earth, then it eases, I think, some of the maybe psychological or some of the mental or emotional aspects of the customer experience, because you do feel better when you're purchasing with a brand that is able to commit and be a B Corp. And we've had other brands come on the podcast as well who speak to the process of becoming a B Corp and why it's important to them. And just in full transparency is something that I very much respect as being in this industry, yes, but then also as a consumer, which I'm sure a lot of others relate to.
For sure, yeah. I once again, I mean, for us, it starts from the very beginning, and if you start there, then the rest is child's play, right? Your product just needs to be sustainable. Your supply chain needs to be sustainable.
Yeah, and then once flywheel effect, it'll keep growing, and get into that scaling that we'll talk about in a little bit. But before we do, so we've spoken about your mission and the branding that you want to convey and the messaging that you're hoping customers receive when they're interacting with Ekster. So now I want to talk about the website design, because as you've mentioned, Richard was building out kind of the back end of the Shopify store, and then, to my understanding, you came in and helped design the website. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I didn't have any web design experience, but after my studies, so when I was already building the company, I did this growth hacking course here in Amsterdam. It took about a year, and that was heavily focused on web design and conversion rate optimization. And like me, I just love design in general. That's what I've been doing from the very beginning. I've been looking at the way we're shooting the photos, the products, the way they look, and that's definitely my forte within the business. And that's why the website I would consider as my domain as well. Super important that it always looks on point and it converts super well. So yeah, I'm always closely working together with Richard to get that design done.
Yeah. Would you say, just high level, you all do a lot of like A/B testing on the site or anything like that to see for that conversion rate optimization, like this product shot versus this product shot, or this copy versus that?
We do, and we've done it over the past few years. The funny part is that when you benchmark the best websites out there based on like Shopify numbers, like the top performing Shopify web shops, if you kind of benchmark the way they set up their website, then you can A/B test as much as you want, but the original design will almost always win. That's what we've seen. So there are some tests where we found like small discrepancies, but that's like, we always had the joke in the office that like we can A/B test, but like our original design is going to win anyway. So we still A/B test, but rarely do we find like super big winning B variations.
Okay, that's an interesting finding that you all have observed. Would you say, like, my first take is that if someone's already familiar with your website, it's going to be the best experience because they already know what they're going to expect, versus if you change it with an A/B test, then maybe that would perform lower. Would you?
Yeah, you would think that, but like I would say 80% of the people on our website have never seen our website before. So it's almost never recurring people or like revisiting people. So I would say that theory would make sense if you only have people on the website that know your brand already.
So do you have any theories as to why the original tends to
I
perform
just think
better?
that like if you can't, it's almost impossible to reinvent the wheel these days when it comes to web design, because it just needs to be super clean, super uh, clear for the customer. And if you're just looking at the top 10 best performing DTC websites and what they're doing, and keeping an eye on like the changes they make, and if you stay in line with that, then I would say you're 80% there, and then maybe the last 20% you can win with some A/B tests.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So questions about your website design, because there are some things that I just, while scrolling through, of course, had to do my due diligence. Some things that I noticed that I don't typically see all that often. So on your homepage, you have the loyalty sign up.
Yeah.
So what was kind of like the inspiration behind wanting to have that like CTA kind of right there for the customer to see in
Yeah.
their first interactions?
So we are big fans of not making it more complicated for people.
Mm-hmm.
So the goal always has been to have as little links clicking out or linking out of the page that are not going to a PDP. But we recently launched this loyalty program, and we are trying to get that retention rate up, because wallets are not really a product you would buy multiple times a year. And so we decided to give it a prominent place on the website, because we also want to show how important this loyalty program is. And that's why we
Mm-hmm.
gave it its own specific logo, so that people really have the feeling that they're joining a membership club, which they are, because they're getting a lot of benefits. You know, they're getting lifetime warranty, they're getting all these different discounts when they're ordering more, they're getting gifts for their birthday. There's all these different perks that they're getting, and it would be a shame if you build such a nice program and then not inform them about it, especially for new customers coming in.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say on desktop, it's definitely more prominent than on mobile, because there's not much screen real estate on mobile. But I definitely like the way it looks for now, and we're just going to test it, see what happens. If it doesn't get any clicks, then we'll think of something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I'm glad you brought up the distinction between like a loyalty program and a membership program, because I'm starting to see more and more distinction between the two. Because
Yeah,
often I just conflate the two and call them the same thing, but I do see them as different, depending on what is offered in each program. And I think
yeah,
memberships for a product like those that you all offer makes sense in that, like you said, it's not like CPG, you're not consuming, you're not going to probably, the rate between purchases is going to be longer, because you're hoping
yeah,
that the product is so
yeah,
well made that you don't need to go back and buy whenever a couple of months or so,
exactly.
right? So I think the distinction between a membership where these are the added bonuses that you're getting access to by being a member in this
Yeah,
club versus a true, typical
yeah.
loyalty
I mean,
program.
I
Really
would
different.
never, I wouldn't necessarily say they're so different from each
Mhm.
other, but it just feels more like you're part of something if it's like a membership. But it's whether it's loyalty or membership, it doesn't really matter. They're not paying for it; it's for free. But we just want to have them like feel that they're getting more, because they actually are getting a lot more for it.
Mhm.
So that's why it's so prominently shown.
Yes, yeah, and make a customer relationship stronger because they're in
Yeah.
the program. Yes, that totally makes sense. And so I also have another question about the homepage specifically, because when you pop into the website, there is a pop up
Hmm.
that it's an email capture, and
Yeah.
so what was the strategy or what was the thought behind having that be part of the customer experience?
So I would say you should always have some kind of email capture on your website. It doesn't have to be instant. It can be later in the browsing process, but it's mostly for people that don't convert right away. You do want to stay in touch with them, and it doesn't have to be extremely invasive. In the US, people are used to getting text messages from brands. In Europe, they would hate you if you do that. But we sign them up for email, and then if they want like an extra perk, they sign up for SMS, and then we send them the offer through email and SMS. So I would say it's definitely no brainer. to try to generate those leads.
Mm-hmm. So now we're getting a little bit more into the weeds with the customer experience. Once that email is captured, is there a specific cadence other than, the discount or the offer from the original pop-up, or is it just kind of like seeing what happens? If someone takes you up on that offer, then great. If they don't, then that customer experience ends? Or do you filter them into kind of like a drip campaign?
Yeah, so we have a drip campaign where when they do sign up for both, they get the free product and they get that sent to them through SMS and email. And then after that, they are entered into this welcome flow where they get multiple touch points over a period of a few weeks. Some of them elaborating on the brand, kind of telling them why we're doing this. The others giving them another offer. And then if they haven't purchased, they'll keep getting those emails. But if they do purchase, they leave that flow. And then they start getting specific campaigns from us about like new product launches and other stuff that might be interesting to them. But yeah, the drip campaign is definitely, that's the biggest performer for us. So also a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. If it works well, then you don't want to change
Yeah.
anything up there. And so I think it's really interesting having brands that have multiple geos, and that there's also like cultural aspects, or just like what's the norm. And you mentioned SMS. People in the US are more likely to expect or be comfortable with the idea of brands sending them text messages, but in Europe, that's not exactly the trend. So are you looking at your like communication strategy? Are you looking to see if someone lives in the US or is ordering from a specific address? Then okay, like maybe preferential to SMS, and sending different campaigns then, because obviously there's opt-in. So if someone in Europe
so we send specific, we show different pop-ups to different regions. So we have a pop-up for the US, we have a pop-up for Canada, a pop-up for the UK, and a pop-up for the rest of the world. And each of these communicate different things. It does complicate things, but it's legally mandatory because you're collecting them in different ways. And it's also like the messaging is different. Like I said, Europe, like just don't even try sending text messages yet, unless it's about like their order shipping or tracking number.
Like the transactional notifications. Yeah. That also makes me think too, which I'm sure you do this, but maybe different holidays in different regions that you'd want to celebrate. Is there anything like the copy itself of the pop-up changes?
It does, yeah. So we recently opened our warehouse in the UK, and we've definitely made some changes to the copy in the UK on the website, in the emails, in our ads. I would say like the basic spelling, like the grammar stuff, make sure to change that. But also, there are different holiday dates in different countries. So those are always opportunities to do like a sale or a promotion or something. So it would be a shame if you don't jump on that.
Yeah. I just think like Canada with Boxing Day, and then US Thanksgiving, all those fun things, which I'm sure is fun to think through, of like the different copy and ads that you're going to run and all that. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense, both from a legal standpoint and then a marketing one as well. So now we've talked about a little bit with the communication strategy with customers. I want to dive into just the whole customer experience in general. Because we have mentioned, you land on the website, what does that look like? You sign up for a discount or a free product. What does the communication strategy look like there? But in general, can you walk us through kind of the typical or ideal customer experience that someone would have with Ekster?
Yeah, so I would say retention is all about making your customers happy and giving them what you promise on the website. So once again, it starts with the product. Like your product just needs to be amazing, and it needs to be durable, and people need to give it great reviews, because that's when they come back. So for us, I would say a typical journey would be people find us on Facebook or Instagram through ads. That's probably the majority of the people. They land on the website. then preferably they land on a landing page that connects really well with the ad that they saw, so that they don't bounce away and that they kind of feel like this is what I was promised.
Mm-hmm.
They click around, hopefully they have a good browsing experience, and they end up at the PDP and select their color and check out. Now that Shopify is going to release that one page checkout, that's going to make everything a lot smoother and probably increase the conversion rate as well. After that, we send them their transactional emails. So obviously we thank them for the purchase, and we enter them into the newsletter if they want to be, so they can stay up to date with new product launches or other offers. And then we just stay in touch through email and SMS. And I think the most important part here is two things to notice: your post-purchase survey, super crucial if you want to get to know your customer and if you want to know where they came from. Important to scale everything as well, because then you can track what's happening, especially with attribution issues lately. So, and then secondly is the support, like just offering instant support and making sure that they understand that they can reach out and get a quick answer. That's going to really help increase the customer satisfaction.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a really great point with using the post-purchase survey as part of your strategy to inform like attribution and all those things. And would you say, so that post-purchase survey, are you sending it after the product arrives, like after a specific length of time?
We actually send it, we put it on the checkout page. So after they check out,
Okay.
they instantly see the survey, because then it's still fresh. Most people that buy with us are impulsive, so they buy it right after they find us. And so people will remember where they saw us. If you're gonna send that later, people won't even remember.
Okay.
I don't remember where I find things half the time, because you have so many things coming at you all day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Smaller attention span too. It's just like so many different things to juggle. Okay. Gotcha. Because I've definitely seen which maybe would be more of a like product feedback form where it's sent, after the delivery notification gets sent, then it's triggered after, X amount of days, like, how are you enjoying your experience with our product? XYZ. Okay, but this is more for the attribution piece. So it's instant after checkout. So okay, so that's the typical kind of pre-purchase customer experience upfront. Now, post-purchase, I know we've talked a little bit about the transactional notifications, but can you walk us through what a customer, they check out on that page, they fill out that post-purchase survey. What are on the back end, what kind of notifications are you sending? Other than,
so I need to make sure I get these right, but we have the order confirmation email, which thanks them and tells them a bit about what's coming their way. Then we have a aftercare email, which talks about the product and tells them how to take care of it and what could possibly happen with the leather and what to expect when using the products. Then we have a tracking email, which shows them exactly where their product is. And then by then their product should arrive. And after that, there is a review request, but I think that's like a week or two after, so people can have the time to use it. And then we send if they're happy with it, we send them a refer a friend email, which now has been pivoted to our loyalty program. So we ask them to become part of loyalty, and then within that program, they can earn points for referring friends.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So with then do you typically see a lot of referrals? Because I feel like that is something we see time and time again, is like word of mouth marketing, or just the conversion rate of like referrals is very strong, especially when you're motivated by, getting points through a loyalty program that you're signed up for.
I wouldn't say it's like part of our top 10 revenue drivers, but it's definitely a nice revenue stream, and people do. It's one of the nicest ways of selling your product, because people are recommending your brand to someone else, and there's no better ad than a person telling their friend that they love your brand. So I guess just for that already, it's worth it.
Yeah. And then this is something we also see time and time again in the post-purchase experience is educating your customers and making sure that when the product arrives, they know how to use it. And that's different, obviously, for
Yeah.
every company, every brand, every product. So what are you specifically like, what's industry specific that you're sharing, once your Ekster wallet arrives, this is what you can
Yeah.
expect, like how the leather is changing. Can you go into
Yeah.
details about that more?
Yeah. So we send, it's like a 5 things to know about your product when it arrives. First of all, when it arrives, the leather may appear a little stiff, or maybe like it may appear like not supple or something, because it's fresh out of the box. It needs to be used for a few days, and it will form to your pocket, and it'll become slimmer with time. Stuff like that, like details about how the product will evolve, because that will also decrease the return rate. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
people unbox and they're like, oh, this is kind of like, because it's super nice leather, it's kind of stiff, so they need to use it, and it builds this beautiful patina over time. Another thing is we have a link that goes directly to an online user manual, which takes them step by step through everything that they need to know about the product. And then I think we also highlight our main features, like the quick card access feature. And then when they receive the product inside of this wallet, there's a cool feature, because we obviously have that card feature shooting out the cards. So the 6 cards that are inside of the wallet are part of like the user manual experience. So you eject them. One of them has a QR
Oh,
code to the user manual. The other one has a little bit about us, like our story. The other one has like follow us on Instagram and join our giveaways. There's a bunch of different, like join our loyalty program, all that kind of stuff. So it's
oh,
like they
that's really
instantly
cool.
experience how the wallet works while getting all these unboxing messages.
Ah, okay. So that's a very creative way to get the message across it. Like these are all the things
Yeah,
that we offer. But you're also learning how to use the wallet
exactly.
through
While
like
doing
by
it.
getting that information. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, oh, that's really cool. So with then so the user guide, it like walks you through, like I'm sure you have to like set up tracking for the actual wallet, right? Like all
Yeah.
like the software side
Yeah.
of things, and then sharing like community and social. um yeah, that's okay. That's a really cool unboxing experience. i've
Yeah.
heard i've heard some cool ones before. But that's awesome. So sharing your mission statement, I take it that is like, is it learning more about, you and your other two co-founders, learning about
Yeah.
your mission, like your sustainability,
Yeah.
becoming a B Corp, all of that?
It's like a little short version of our about page. So it talks about us, it talks about the product, it talks about the brand and the vision. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a nice little message for them to understand why we're doing this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. And you mentioned so returns, like there's obviously part of the post-purchase education that you're going through is to hopefully, manage expectations, and that this is what your product can do and what it does, and all these different things that a
Yeah.
consumer might want when they're interacting with your product. But I think everyone, just from consumers to industry specific e-commerce experts, would say, returns or exchanges are inevitable. And so
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about, the process, what they look like in your industry, kind of your experience with it all. Cause I'm purely curious. And we as a company, Malomo, just started, we just launched our loop with integrations. And so like returns to me personally is fascinating, because it's just not something we were looking into before. So it's kind of a new unlock. And so I've been asking our guests
Yeah.
recently to dive into it.
Yeah. Returns are definitely a tough one. So we are lucky to not like to be in an industry or a vertical where you kind of see what you see is what you get,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no sizes, you don't have to like
Yeah.
try it on and send it back. And that's probably the biggest issue in the fashion industry, is that people buy 10 things and then keep one.
Yep.
I would say like the average in our vertical is about 5% return rate.
Mm,
So super low. And once again, to reiterate on what I previously said, the most important part is clearly communicating on the website what they're going to get, with good imagery, perhaps even videos, and then offering outstanding support so that they can ask questions if they need to. That's going to decrease your return rate the most. And then once again, back to the product, like it just needs to be the high quality product that you're promising them that you're going to get. So
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because when I was thinking about it, I was like, I don't think personally, unless it was something really just kind of, just didn't expectation or whatever.
yeah,
I was like, I couldn't see a major use case in terms of returns being super, super large, like
no,
they would be with something like apparel. And something that is just more unique to each specific person.
yeah,
So are you then once do you see exchanges at all too? Because I know they're very similar, but obviously different.
we do, but super, super low percentage. I wouldn't even
Probably
know what
even
the
smaller,
percentage
right?
is. Yeah,
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 exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
Just have to ask.
yeah,
Okay, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. It's always so fun to learn, and that's obviously why we're sitting here.
yeah.
So almost done with my questions for you, and this has been so, so fascinating. But I always like to ask, when you think of retention, we've been talking about it. Obviously, this podcast is called Retention Chronicles. What does that mean to you? Like, what's your take on retention? Like if you had to describe it to someone, what would you say?
I would say retention is the metric that shows how satisfied your customers are.
Mm,
And if you're able to um, keep your retention high, that means you're doing something right with your relationship with your customers. So I would say that the three pillars that are most important to get high retention is building a great product, offering outstanding support, and then keeping them in the loop with personalized messaging. Try to offer, like, try to send them stuff that is specifically interesting for them. So don't just blast messages to everyone, but segment to make sure that they get more personalized messages.
hmm. Yeah, I love that. Segmentation comes up a lot, I feel like, in this realm, and it is the extra mile, right? It just makes more
Yeah.
sense. It for both parties involved. So I love that. Thank you. And then final question, what's one piece of advice? It could be just like general life advice, business advice, wherever you want to take it. But what's one piece of advice that has helped you along the way of starting Ekster and just where you've gotten to today?
I would go for a recent one, actually, a recent learning that we've only really started doing in the past 2 years is getting to know your customer through surveys or through emailing them directly or calling them up is probably one of the most valuable things you can ever do for your business because that's going to shape your strategy for the future. So we've recently been doing a lot of surveys to our customers to ask them
Mm,
about what do you like about the product, what don't you like, what would you like to see more of, are there other products you want to see? That information, you have such a big database already being a D2C brand, but why are like people need to use that? You need it. And people, customers actually enjoy responding to these questions. So it's a win-win situation.
I love that. Yeah, using product information or customer feedback to inform product and
Yeah.
strategy is always, yeah. I feel like that's kind of it's like an unsung hero sometimes where it could be easily
Yeah.
forgot about, but like you just said, customers do enjoy feeling like they're helping in a way, right? Like it's
Exactly.
human nature. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really fascinating. Well, thank you so much, Oliver. This has been absolutely fantastic to get to take this almost hour, get to chat out with you and learn more about your brand.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you too. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course.